Hello again, Ian Stick with Mastermind Games, back with more Malifaux, this time painting the Necropunks. 09149 Moldy skin. Necropunks are quickly made undead and are a combination of flesh and metal, using steam or clockwork-powered mechanical parts to supplement undead flesh, and are some of the first things many necromancers end up creating. And this kit has 3 distinct sculpts, so I'll be showing a bit of each as I go along. This one is wearing pants. They're just torn and ragged. Seem to hang down not too far above the crotch. Alright. Decent start, so take care of the other 2. Come back in a bit. Next up, oiled leather 09110. And this one's running a bit thin as well. And getting the ragged cloth over the flesh portions. This might be a bit too thin. Okay, that's got that. Apply to the other 2, move on in a bit. Getting some hair next. Rainy Gray 09038. And this one will have black hair when I'm done, but I find this is a nice base to start with. Whoop. And then Violet Red is 09026. Because if you're going to have a mohawk on a model, bright colors are typically the way to go. And this particular model definitely gives the punk aspect, right? Okay. Back in a bit. Alright, next up, Stormy Gray 09088. This one will have different colored boots than, well, boots that are a different color from his clothing. That beeping is nothing of consequence, just my dinner getting heated up in the microwave. Okay. Then Tarnished Steel 09206. So assembling this model was particularly nerve-wracking because these arms are very delicate and flimsy. I'm just going to start by doing the lenses on his goggles and the steel as well. Then up along the back is mechanical apparatus. Just using a very delicate touch. You see it wiggled there just now, so I have to be extremely cautious. Well, I think the Skeeters from Summerteeth Jones's box that I did a while back are definitely the most fragile, and that's probably a package I'm waiting on. So, I'm just going to finish this first and see who that is. These are a little sturdier than the ones with the blades. I think this one's my favorite sculpt out of the lot. Now these cables, these wires are going to be done in a different color in a little bit. Just want to do this up first. I'm on the back, and that's pretty good. Apply to the rest and move on when it's dry. Next up, Chaotic Red. This is an Army Painter Warpaint, and a substitute for the deep red I was using previously. Again, I'm slowly converting over to Warpaints as the Reaper Master Series becomes unavailable locally. So this is kind of a gore warning here, but he's got some viscera showing. And then I'll take Old Bronze 09197 and get the wires. Well, wires and any other bits I feel like to get the impression of a composite construction. After all, whatever maniac made these guys used more than one material to do so. And you'd have to be a maniac to desecrate the dead just to make disposable shock troops. Alright, I'm satisfied, I think. So, you know what, there's a few spikes coming out of his shoulder. So I'm going to do those in the bronze too. And now I'm satisfied. Apply to the rest, and there's just one more base coat before I can start shading. Last base coat, uniform gray. This is another Warpaint. A nice solid layer on the base. Again, just some custom sculpting here, going for just the rough, crude stone of the slums. I wound up doing stonework a little more uniform on models I didn't originally intend to, but it's also one of those, you get one shot at this, so alright. Apply that to the other two. Till it's all dried up, I can start shading. Time to shade. So we're going to take our paint and thin it out with 1 part water to 1 part paint. And starting with Ruddy Leather 09109. So temperature and humidity will affect your drying times. If it's warmer, it'll dry faster than when it's colder, and then if it's more humid, it'll dry slower than when it's less humid. Just something you need to bear in mind. Lately in my area, it has been hot and dry. So conversely, my drying times have been fairly quick. But this is probably the longest step. Not because of how long it takes to actually paint, but because of just waiting on the drying times. Now when I highlight, I'm only going to concern myself with the most readily visible areas. But for the shading, I'll get everything. And in order of painting, you want to do your base coats from the lowest area, generally the skin, to the highest area of the model. Shade will go highest area to lowest, and your highlights will go low to high. Alright, that's got this one. I'll apply this to the other two and move on in a bit. Next up, Burgundy Wine 09025. We'll get Spider-Punk's Mohawk. Calling them that because of the 8 limbs. And this is clogged, so paper clip down the nozzle. Now unclogged. The brown is still drying, but this is far enough away from it I can work with that. Little something in the brush I don't want. You'll notice I'm using the fingers of my offhand to brace my main hand when painting. That's a little trick that's good to know. And then Pure Black 09037. This is about shot, so I might have to swap out for my backup. I was going on 2 different areas, and with Pure Black and other really dark colors, you want to thin out with 2 to 3 parts water per 1 part paint. And this is going to go on his boots. So the brown is at least dry enough I can do this without running the risk of contaminating my color. And then on his hair, more. And then there's just one more thing I can do. And red brick 09001. I'm going to do a layer of shading on the exposed muscle and viscera, but that detail will get 2 layers. This, and then you'll see the other in a bit. So just dab that in. I'll get the exposed guts on the other model feature one before moving on. Things are still drying, which is another one I can do. Pewter 09196. Just need to give a few minutes to some of those. I don't need much of this. Right there. So, but I am at a point where I can only shade colors one at a time right now, which is going to happen. You want to generally avoid, okay, let's go on the wires. You want to avoid shading colors that are adjacent to each other, at least until they're dry. So the wires in one step, and the rest of the metal will be another. You'll notice there's a lot of empty spaces, so be careful around those. And if I get any bubbles in there, I'll simply literally blow through them to clear them so that it doesn't leave a film, because it will do that. Alright, let that dry. There's only going to be 3 colors left. Alright, next up, Blackened Steel 09205. Actually, I think I might end up doing a second shade on the eye lenses, or maybe just, you know what, I'm going to do those as sort of pseudo lighting effect. So we'll get the arms here. Using a very delicate touch because of the fairly weak construction. Keeping the brush nice and wet during all of this. Okay. I'm getting the back here. And then apply to the rest and move on. Second to last shade. Ghoul Skin 09148. And I am deliberately going over the exposed organs as well here. Going to kind of muddy them up. After all, these guys are probably not fresh corpses. They're probably fished out of a river or exhumed. Okay. Apply to the other 2. Do the last shading and get some lighting effects set up. And next up, Matte White. This is another Warpaints. I'm going to be prepping some lighting effects here. In the case of this guy, instead of the entire length of his goggles like I normally do for glowing eyes, I'm just going to kind of do selectively. Not these other 2. Do full glow. And then I'll fill that in up on the cowl there. That should come off when I highlight. And then Stormy Gray 09088. Get a nice solid coat on the basing. This is hand sculpted. I've done just a layer of sculpting putty pattern sculpted in while still wet. And the model glued on top when dry. Alright. And once that's white has dried up a bit, I can do the lighting effect. Alright, now for a lighting effect. Pale green 09012. And for lighting, we're going to thin it out a little more than usual, so the tiniest dot will be more than enough. And probably 2 to 3 parts water with 1 part paint. Just dab that in to the eyes carefully. Kind of a common undead trope, but one that I want to go with in this case. A little more paint for his lenses. It's kind of fighting me. Well, that little green around the hood is fine. It is really fighting me quite badly on him. See how it turns out when it's done, but there we go. Once it's completely dry, I can highlight and wrap up. Okay, highlighting. So, alright, dropped a chunk of frames there, but it looks like it's okay. Bloodless Skin 09150. So this is going to be done using a dry brushing technique. And my paint bottles. Well, he has some old paint over the... Oh boy. This is how this is going this morning. Okay. Trying again. Still fighting me. Let's keep. Okay. We have paint. You want a ragged feather brush for this. No water, straight paint. And rub it on a paper towel till most of the paint is gone. Looks like there's nothing left. Let's get this out of frame here. And then, I'm not dropping hundreds of frames a second. Just lightly dust the area to be affected, going against angles or sharp raised areas. This will catch the paint on the, so the highest areas will catch the paint here, leaving the recesses untouched. And apply to the rest and move on. Next up, Pale Violet Red 09027. Again, you want to work from the lowest area to the highest when highlighting. You also want your brush to be completely dry. In my case, I've got plenty of brushes suitable for this, so I'm swapping freely. going to do a few quickies here. Take a second. Uniform gray. That's an army panel one. And I am aware my chair could use a case or three of WD-40. And then swapping over to this model, Pure Black 09037. Which may or may not have enough paint left in it to do the job on this set, but we'll see. Yeah, the punks on the Necropunks are not the only ones with a punk look. There are punk zombies, and then the second edition sculpts for the Victorias definitely had a punk look to them. Okay, that's not bad. So this particular brush might be about shot. Now, tidying up a bit, Blood Red 09003. This one's also running a bit thin, but I do have a replacement on hand. Making sure I'm good on the frame rate. Looks okay, so back over here. Then on this model. Exposed viscera there. And next, I have the metal. Let's look at True Silver 09207. Just need to pick out a proper brush. Just shine up its staff. Refreshing the paint as necessary. Okay, put that on the others and then move on in a second. Next, 09198 Tarnished Brass. Getting a little tongue-tied there. And this will go rapidly enough. I'll just do all three of them. Concerning myself mostly with the most readily visible surfaces. So I'm not necessarily getting every surface here. Okay. Then what's actually the last highlight on the model itself, burnt orange 09111, which is plugged up. different one for this. Use an appropriate sized brush, smaller brushes for smaller areas, larger brushes for larger areas. You can technically do a small brush on a large area, but it'll take more time. And trying to go against the folds so the paint catches a little better. It's not bad, so apply to the other two and move on. Last highlight, Misty Gray 09090. And this is just going to go over the base. Here, trying to pick out a brush that is it's dry, and this will work. I'm just going to get the other two really quick at it, because there's only 2 steps left after this last highlight. Need to refresh my paint there. And switching to a flathead brush. Most of the brushes I use are round, or once were, as far as the dry brushes are concerned. Pure Black 09037. This might be the last hurrah for this one. The nice thing about the dry brushing step, highlighting, is the paint has so little water it dries almost instantly. Not quite, but almost. These go very quickly. So I am now just lining the edge of the base, being careful and trying to avoid hitting the basing. Now if you're flocking or using another similar material like sand or talus, which is rock debris, then you would do this before applying that. Yeah, this is just putting a nice even finish on the base. This can be any color. I used to use faction-specific colors before all the faction changes were announced for 3rd edition. And apply that to the rest, and once it's dry completely, I can do the last step and wrap up. Final step, matte white. This is another Army Painter one. So I'm just going to be numbering the backs of the bases for my own convenience. So that in a game all I have to do is just put the corresponding number on the reference card, which I put in a sleeve beforehand, by the way, so I'm writing on the sleeve, not the card. Just Roman numeral 1. Two, and 3. And that is it for the Necropunks. Continuing with Malifaux for a bit longer. Until next time, I am Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, signing out.